This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
PTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. August. July is in the rearview mirror. It is now August, the dog days of summer. And I got Bradley Hallman, not in studio, but in office. What's up, Bradley?
What's up, man? What's up?
How are you doing?
Been an interesting morning for me. I started at 6 a.m. and just getting right down to the wire of getting everything we needed for the show today.
It did. We have an exciting show today. We're going to start out. We're going to talk a little bit about the MLF Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit final day of the season, currently going on as we record the show live on Lake Champlain. Michael Neal getting the job done with back-to-back Angler of the Years on the Pro Circuit. And dude, this guy hovered on the brink of greatness for the first 5-6 years of his career. Almost won a cup. Remember that? He almost won a cup doing that. And then he's right around 30 years old, and he is now a force to be reckoned with in the world of professional bass fishing, Bradley.
No doubt he is, and it's pretty remarkable. What is it, his second AOY over there? It seemed like last year was AOY as well. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
We were calling him the champ last year at Christmas.
Yep.
Yeah, he's done it 2 years in a row now. That's incredible, especially with that field.
I think joining if I read it right, there's a press release Scott Martin and David Dudley is back to back. Don't crucify me if I'm wrong there on that, but that is really hard to do in especially a 140 to 160 boat field too.
Yeah.
I mean that's a very impressive resume, and doing it all across the country. Champlain, a very interesting event. I've talked about this, and we've talked with anglers about this throughout this season, is the zeroing of the weights on the final day. And some of the tournaments, you go to a Rayburn or something like that, and you can really separate yourself. But I think this is the biggest wild card when you go up to a place like Champlain, where, Josh Butler was leading the Angler of the Year before. He came in with 15 pounds a day. He had almost 31 pounds of fish. He finished 90th, right? And then if you have 16 a day, it's 50 more points. 17 a day, it's absolutely insane. So this is truly a one-day shootout, and I don't think you see the impact of the zeroing of the weights more than you do on a fishery like Champlain, where one big bite can carry. Kyle Hall was leading this thing, and currently we're just a couple hours in the morning, and he's already 9 pounds back of Dakota Ebear, who's also another angler who's on
I hadn't pulled it
streak over there.
I hadn't pulled it up, but this morning. But I've been watching it all over the weekend and stuff, and amazingly, there's only 2 guys in this top 10 that I don't know pretty well. Mm-hmm. Kyle Hall's one of them I don't know, and I don't know Andy Newcomb, but the rest of the guys I know pretty well. I was actually talking to Dakota at ICAST about, not about Champlain, but he was telling me that he had spent a tremendous amount of time up there over the last couple of summers. He actually kind of lived up there. So he's got a lot of knowledge about that place. He's going to be hard to handle today.
Top 5 fishery in the country, no doubt. I've never actually fished a tournament there, but I mean, you look at the weights, you look at the consistency, you look at what Sean Goodwin did on the first day with 6-pound largemouth, 20-pound sacks, and then the guys that are doing it with smallmouth too, and just the numbers and consistency. Top 5 fishery in the country, no doubt.
Yeah, it's probably, it's in all the pros' top 5. It's in most pros' top 3. It's more than just the fishery too. It's the scenery, it's the weather and the time of year that we generally are up there. That run to Ticonderoga, when you're on fish down there on Ty, it's a long ways, but on the days that it's not rough and it's not blowing, which it didn't in this event for them this week, dude, there is nothing like taking off in the morning and knowing you got 60 miles to run and the sun is coming up over the Adirondacks. They're out of, I guess that would be Vermont on the east side. Dude, it's one of the most beautiful scenic drives. Like it's moving to make that run in the morning. It really is, because the sun's coming up over those mountains, and it's a special place.
It is. Dude, we have a lot of ground to cover in this show.
Really.
I know. We basically were on a full month-long road trip, came back, got a week of shows in. It included the Open on Oneida. One of the favorite listener and viewer segments that we do is where we break down each other's kind of game footage from the Bassmaster Opens. But immediately after Oneida, we stayed up in New York, went to Kirk Dove's Pro Bass Camp. I stayed up in New York after that. You flew home, drove home. Then the very next day, flew back for ICAST in Orlando, Florida. And then you flew home from that, and then I drove home, and now we're just kind of getting our wits about us. Those 3+ week long road trips, you kind of just lose sense of reality about halfway through them, especially when there's so many, you just kind of take it one day at a time. I imagine that's something you've gotten used to over 20 years of doing this.
No,
I
hadn't gotten used to it. No, they're hard. They're hard no matter how old or young you are. I do think that you do get probably more adjusted to them after you've done some of the back-to-backs and events and traveling that far. It does become you're more expecting of what's about to happen, but you don't ever really get used to it now.
I think that's what the best in the game are able to do, though, are able to have some sense of normalcy amidst the chaos and the distractions that go along with being on the road for so long.
Like I said, I think it's because they understand what it's going to be like going into it. And so therefore they're able to maybe appear that they have some more normalcy, but it's still tough on anybody.
All right. So what we're going to do today is we are going to go over in the first half the Oneida Open that took place 3 weeks ago now, but still it's a segment that we've done, and it's not so much, hey, here's how Oneida was fishing, but I look at this segment as a learning experience that you can take forward. Mistakes, good decisions, bad decisions that the listeners and viewers can learn from what you do right and what I do wrong is kind of how it's been going this year. Wow. And then kind of put some clips with it. So I think I have the audio figured out to where we can actually listen to the audio, but we cannot talk over the audio. That's where we got the echo last time we did that on the show. But we're going to go through that because it was a pretty important tournament. It sealed my fate, for lack of a better term, in the overall and in the Northern Division. I think I finished like 127th in that. Only had 3 fish on day 2, but you actually did yourself a lot of good, and it could have been better. Where did you finish in that? I'm scrolling through. You were in the 50s, right?
I think in the 60s.
You were in the 60s?
Yeah, I was in the 20s after day 1, and then day
68.
2 day 2 was rough.
29-3 with in 68th place. But you go to the overall point standings, and that's where things get interesting because you moved up to 8th place overall in the point standings. And with 4 tournaments left, there's Sam Rayburn. Oh, next is Chesapeake Bay. That's probably the biggest wild card out of all of them, wouldn't you say?
Red River.
For you.
Red River.
Red River's a bigger wild card for you? Aren't you way more familiar with the Red River, Brad?
I'm familiar with how the Red River used to be, not how it is now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we've got 2 what I would say really tough ones on the Red River and the Chesapeake coming up. Chesapeake, Red River, and then we go to Lake Hartwell, kind of an early fall, late summer event there. We've seen what you can do with spotted bass. That'll be an interesting one. And then finish up on Sam Rayburn. So kind of right where you need to be to make a run at this thing with 4 left. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you told me at the beginning of the year that I could be sitting in 8th with a 100-point margin or less than a 100-point margin between me and those top 3, then I would call that. I would take it, sit on the boat ramp and wait for the last 4.
Our boy John Soka had another solid finish there. That open 40-something place. It's weird when he doesn't cash a check. It's almost like he's a failure if he's not in the top 10 now at this point. He's having a heck of a year. We're going to have him in studio here in the next couple weeks. He's got a bunch of Bass Tank giveaways, 826 points, but he's leading the way. And then the whole house was me, Upshaw, you, and Sokup, and then is Grayson at school? Is Grayson home? I told him I wanted to have Grayson do the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, that's right.
The next time we were on BTL.
Yeah, he's probably laying in his bed doing it right now.
But he's what, 12?
Yeah, he's 12.
Cool road trip with Dad. Then you brought Grayson with you to New York for 2 weeks. Basically, he roomed with us for the opens, and then stayed around and was just a passive participant in Kurto's Pro Bass Camp. Just kind of hung around. But man, that's got to be something he's going to remember for a long time. Is that road trip with Dad for 2 weeks up in New York? Yeah,
he had a good time. He did.
All right, then in the second half of the show, we do have another guest, and this is there's certain, I guess I would say, must stops that you start to learn of or around the country. What's the one in Alabama? Is it Mark's Outdoors, or what's the one in Alabama?
Waterfront.
No. This is up in New York, and I'm talking about must stop, tackle stop stores around the country.
I thought you said Alabama.
Yeah, that's where Mark's is, isn't it? Mark's Outdoors? Isn't that in Alabama?
On which lake?
I don't know. There's one in Alabama that I stop every time I'm through
the
Alabama.
Waterfront at Gunnersville, we definitely has always been.
Waterfront in Gunnersville. The Toledo Town tackle down there on Toledo Bend. You always there's just a couple different tackle stores regardless of where you are in the country. When you go through Arkansas, there's the Bass Mafia store. If you need some of the specialty stuff that you stop at all the time. But everyone kind of knows these. Hey, did you stop at so-and-so? There was that. Where was that one we stopped at this year? That was crazy. Did you ever go to the one at Cherokee?
Oh, yeah. I think that's called Dan's or Steve's or Ted's or something. But dude,
that one was
incredible.
Really good. One of the best, everyone was stopping there. I mean, it got to the point where they were like, hey, have you been to that tackle store? And you're like, yeah, don't go unless you want to drop a lot of coin.
Yeah, that's a good one. He's got all the stuff on the floor. That's what makes them good, is when they've got all the junk and trash from like 20 years ago that they still like got on the bargain bin.
But one of those stops, particularly in the last couple of years with the opens going up there too, has been Lakeside Outfitters on Oneida Lake. Sure. And they do a really good job. I think there's three main owners up there, and it is a jammer specialty shop, and they know what's coming in as far as ice fishing, as far as walleye fishing, and as far as bass fishing, and really take care of the anglers when they come into town. Obviously, it's a business. They want to have what the guys want when they come in, but Scott Masucci is one of the owners of Lakeside. Got to know him a little bit better during the Kurt Dove Pro Bass Camp, because we kind of took the kids there the following week, where they just spent tons of money on crazy stuff. It's unbelievable. But I wanted to get him on to talk about the impact that a Bassmaster Open, a major tournament, whether it's an Elite Series, a pro circuit, Open, has on like an independent small tackle shop, what he does to prepare, some of the trends that he sees, if he sees mistakes from guys too, right? Like we come into there, you wonder if he's like, here's this guy, he's not going to catch him. He just completely retooled his tackle box and is asking about baits he knows nothing about. So we'll have Scott on from Lakeside to kind of break down, like I said, the impact that a local tackle shop, the impact for a local tackle shop when a major tournament comes. And I'm interested. I mean, how much money do you think? Okay, 220 open, 210 co-anglers. So I'm pushing 500 guys that are all in, that are all either paying $600 or $1,800. How much money do you think those guys spend at a good local tackle shop the week of an open? I mean, I'm not going to ask them this.
Just basing off of some of the guys that I've traveled with, man, they drop some coin. Like especially places like that, because he's got little intricacies that are just regionally specific and specific for that lake and specific for that area, and you can't get them anywhere else. You know, one of their specialties is hair. You know what I mean? I mean, they do a lot of hair in that place, and they tie a lot of hair, and that's something that takes a lot of knowledge and experience to do and do it right.
What's the most you've ever spent at a tackle shop over the course of your career? If that's a divulge.
The biggest coin the biggest coin, I remember this. I don't remember what my final total was, but all of us in 2007, we went to California for the very first time.
Yep.
And dude, when we got to Clear Lake, none of us had ever seen a bass tricks for the most part. Like Chris Lane and I walked into this tackle store. It was our day off, and we walk in this tackle store right there on Clear Lake, And it's kind of like one of those tackle stores you're talking about. And the entire wall was nothing but bass tricks. And Chris Lane was like, what are those? And that guy started laughing. He's like, none of you guys have ever seen these. You're like the 20th guy to come in and ask that. And we just unloaded our wallets, dude. We all did. We hadn't even thrown one, and we could tell. The entire wall was bass tricks.
That was the one that I think was legendary for Steve Kennedy dropping. It was either $5 or $10 grand on swim baits.
Exact same
derby.
derby.
He had never thrown one,
derby.
And now he's a guru on it.
Yeah. We all unloaded on swim baits there. That place had more than we'd ever seen before.
Do you remember when Costa, it was either Evan Williams or I think it was Costa, Bass Life with Jason Quinn, where they followed him around for that season, and then it was actually, it was back when it was a DVD that came out. It said, do you remember one of the tournaments that they followed him on, he was in one of the stores and was buying flutter spoons. I'll never forget this in the episode. I bet Jason Quinn bought 75 to 100 flutter spoons. He had them all like lined up, and they were just rows of flutter spoons that he bought, and they put them in a brown paper bag. And he's like, yeah, I'm good to go on that. But that had to be $1,000 worth of flutter spoons back then.
Yeah. Good investment. Because they're more expensive today than they were then. And for sure.
It's an interesting talk because, everyone's sponsored. We're sponsored by soft baits and hard baits, and so is everyone else. But there are certain niche that a sponsor bait doesn't cover, right? Whether it's like a little bitty jig or a big swim bait or something like that.
Or hair jig.
That's where it always gets you.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Like I said, we got a lot to get to this morning. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll start with you. We'll start with Brad Hallman diving into some clips from the last Bassmaster Open on Oneida Lake. It is Monday, August 1st. I can't believe it's August already. July literally did not exist. It was just one giant month-long road trip. But Monday, August 1st, BTL with Bradley Hallman coming back with some game footage from the last Northern Open on Oneida Lake. We'll be back right after this.
Your key to better fishing this season is Elite FS, now available at a new lower price. Get Elite FS9 today for $9.99, and we'll throw in a C-Map reveal chart, our premium mapping solution, for free. Elite FS works with all state-of-the-art Lowrance sonar, from chirp, side scan, and down scan imaging with fish reveal to high-resolution active target live sonar. Elite FS9 and C-Map reveal. Offer ends August 31st.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
We're just about ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. Get in order.
Once again, Drew Cook is in the driver's seat.
When you're catching fish for a living, you can't let a little cold, rain, heat, humidity, or anything else get in the way of a payday. I wear APCO. Any fish, any water.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Welcome back to BTL on a Monday, joined by Bradley Hallman in his trophy office. It's always impressive every single time. the $100,000 checks, the winners' trophies, the titles. We're going to get into a little bit of game tape from the last Open on Oneida. Mistakes that were made, good decisions that were made, and what you can learn from how things went down. Because let's face it, there's very few days where, I mean, if it's tournament day and the chips are on the line and all the money's on the line, I mean, you're throwing, you're using, you're doing 100% what you think is the best thing to do. It's not experiment time. It's not mess around time. I mean, this is what you think you need to do to put the most weight, the biggest bass, and give yourself the best shot to win the Derby. So it's cool, you know, with the evolution of GoPros and how easy it is to now film yourself and have content to be able to look back and break it down. So set the scene before we get into your clips, Brad. Set the scene on Oneida, just kind of briefly what was going on, and then we'll get into your game tape.
So something to notice on the first clip or two that shows up. Day one for me was a good day. I ended up catching over 17 pounds. I probably caught 15 keepers. I caught a lot of fish, a lot. Didn't lose hardly anything. It was a good day. The thing to notice is all the boats. Like, it was like fishing in Florida. And for you guys that haven't been to Oneida, it's a good sized lake. It really is, but it doesn't fish that big. It doesn't even fish that big offshore. There's just not that much out there, especially for the amount of boats that we had, 225. So just kind of notice in the videos, like, you can hear other people talking around us. You know, you can see 6-7 boats in just the peripheral of just what's in front of the GoPro at the time. I mean, it was a lot like fishing in Florida. So, you know, you really had to, for guys that don't like to fish in a crowd, you could really spin out. But it's one of those places that if you weren't around a couple of boats, you probably weren't around that many fish. Did you not feel that way, Matt?
Yeah, I did. I feel like there were 3 bites that were going on this, and I completely missed 2 of them. This was one of the bites that I completely missed. That you got a hold of, and it'll be interesting. We'll show this clip, and we'll get through your clips, but just watching your clips, it's amazing how, I mean, I have idle tracks all over exactly where this first clip is, like literally idle, like every 50 yards, but I didn't know what I should have been looking for. And you figured it out by fishing, and I didn't fish. And therefore, I didn't see it, and it was something you could only figure out by fishing it. So I literally idled over this spot probably 4 or 5 times in practice, and probably half the field did, and it looks like probably a third of them figured it out, and the rest of the guys were like, "What the hell are all those boats doing over there?" But is this where you started on day one?
This is exactly where I started on day one. It's a very popular area on the lake. It's a place that's put out a lot of fish through the years. It's just one of the main shoals there out off the main lake. And, yep, that's where I started. But I started both days. Now, for day one, here was the other issue. I drew out like boat 218. So, like, you know, I'm coming into where can I fit in, right? And that's pretty much what it was.
All right, let's get to this. I think I figured it out to where if I mute us and mute it, we can actually get some audio. So just don't talk over the first clip here, then we'll come back. So here we go. Get this. Oh, of course, now it's freezing up on me. There we go. All right.
I got one on. I thought it was a little one. It's 324. Huh? No, I need 5 of them.
All right. Solid fish there for the first morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was kind of the deal with that spot is I didn't get a lot of bites out there throughout the event, but you didn't cull the ones that you caught out there, and that was a big part of it. I think the first day I only caught 2 or 3 off that spot or that little area, but they were all good ones. And, you got to sit out there and you're watching other guys catch them. I watched one guy's co-angler catch 4. I mean,
Holy
big
cow.
ones. It was like if you were on that little sweet spot, and there was like 8 or 9 little sweet spots out there, and everybody was just kind of rotating. Some of the guys were camping, wouldn't move. They would stay put on the little spot, but it was tough. It was tough, but it was a good spot as far as quality of fish.
Okay, so I also notice you're throwing a spinning rod there. The fucking expert there. Now, just talking with you, I don't know if you want to go into this or not, but I feel like if you had this to do over again, these clips would not include a spinning rod.
That is correct. I'm trying to think of how I want to explain this. So before I went up, I had a friend. It's actually a guy that I met in 2006. He was a co-angler. This is back when Elite Series had co-anglers. And I had a young man by the name of Jesse Herbert in the back of my boat on day 1 or 2 up there at Oneida. And he caught him really good. He ended up finishing second in the event as a co-angler. And then we went back 2 years later and he won the event as a co-angler. And he lives up there. And he and I had discussed before I went up there about different things that go on in Oneida and about that jig. And he was throwing it a lot on spinning rod, and I understood why. And he kind of explained, that hook on that jig, and we're going to get into that in this event a little bit, but there's a lot of critiquing right after it's over. But if I had it to do over with again, I probably am throwing a baitcaster so I can use a little bit heavier line, and primarily just because of the zebra mussels alone. But man, that it's not a big jig. So, I mean, it's not uncommon for me to throw like the LBJ. We throw it on 10-pound test line, but we've put it on a baitcaster at Table Rock and things like that. And so it's not uncommon to throw, a jig on light line like that because it is a finesse jig. It's a small jig. It's got a light wire hook. It flexes very easily. And if you put much pressure on it, and with a baitcaster, you can do that and put too much pressure on it. So it's kind of a double-edged sword using that exact jig that I was using, which was a Kitech. And but it was my favorite. It was my favorite jig. So it's kind of here and there. I still haven't completely made up my mind, but I do definitely like it better on a baitcaster. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, you want to go back to the second clip of day 1 too then?
Yeah, it's kind of. Finally. Solid. It's the kind we're after. 3.5, 359. I doubt we call that today.
All right. So was that kind of your game plan all day 1? Just mosey around, hunker down, and put as much weight as you can in the boat without really exploring anything?
No, I had enough areas that I knew I couldn't fish at all on day 1 or day 2, really. So, like, I explored on some stuff and didn't explore enough. We're going to get into that later, but no, it's not like I stayed there. I stayed there till about 11 o'clock. I caught one more fish after that, which was a 4-pounder. So I caught a 3.5, a 4, and a 3 1/4. And I didn't even really realize that till afterwards when we'd gone back and done the video. It's one of the helpful things to keep a video. Those are 3 big fish, man, on that pond. 4-pounders are hard to come by. All of us in the house felt like we were going to catch them in practice, but we would have said that definitely anything over 16 pounds, we were happy with, right? I mean, how can you not say that?
Yeah, I was shooting for 15 on day 1. I thought 15 would be I thought it'd be in like 40th or 50th place with 15 pounds, 1.5 pounds out of the top 10.
Right. So once I got north of 17, man, it was like, it was a pretty good day, and I just kept running newer water, and I still didn't get to everything that I needed to get to. But yeah, I don't know. So how was your day? Show me what yours started out like.
So we'll go back to mine, and one of the keys on day one that I want everyone to notice here is it is glass calm, and we had one day of practice where it was slick calm like this, and I think both of us really missed, quote unquote, the boat when it came to how to fish these slick calm conditions. At least I completely did. Because it seems like you put a lot of your eggs in the offshore basket, and I put all of my eggs in the offshore basket. So going into day one, this is the first, so second full year of fishing all of the opens. Kind of, I'd say the fourth year for me, kind of trying to qualify for a major tour, right? And you see this a lot. You talk about the sophomore slump, or if these guys can get past 3 years, you really start to see them mature, and it's kind of like a hump there. Well, I'm kind of experiencing that this year because last year they were all new, right? So I'd go in, no preconceived notions, no waypoints from last year, no trails, nothing. Well, I've got all that. So last year on Oneida, I fished a really good tournament in September. I finished in the 60s, would have finished 41st if I hadn't come in 3 minutes late on day 2. But Sunday we get there. I put the boat in on Sunday, and I had all my waypoints there, right? And I knew it was earlier, and I'd no secret. I caught them on Shackleton. I spent the entire time out on Shackleton. So I go out on Shackleton again, and I have like 19 pounds in the first hour and a half. Like every single thing that I drop on the exact waypoints where the skull and crossbones were from 2021. It's just like boom, and it's 5 days before the tournament, so I like reel into it, 4-pounder, go to the, and I'm not like sitting there catching them, and I'm seeing them on the rocks and the boulders, and I'm like, this is dumb, right? So now in my head, I'm already pigeonholed into this offshore deal. Well, I didn't realize it was like Bermuda up shallow in less than 10 foot of water, and when it's calm you could just cruise and catch cruisers. I'd never understood the shoals because I didn't have to, because I was like, I don't care how anyone else catches them, I'm going out on Shackleton. Which one's that?
It's about to be all of them. Yeah. And there's no. So I've got the guy outside spraying for wasps, and my dogs are in the house because they're outside spraying. And anytime somebody comes to the door, they think that they need to inform the whole family that. Well, and everybody's home this morning too.
It sounded like a whole pack. Anyway, so I was pretty much dialed in offshore. Every time during practice I went out there, I could drag and I could catch one. So I really didn't care what else was going on, right? So I'm going out to Shackleton. Well, I draw boat 8 first thing in the morning on day 1, and my plan was hit 5 or 6 spots, start on the west end of Shackleton, work towards the east end where I think most of my juice is, make 10 or 12 spots, drops on all these rocks until I find where the active fish are, and boom, I'm off and rolling. Well, I go to 4 spots, nothing, I'm fine. I hit the 5th spot. I said we should catch one here, and I jam a good one right off the hopper. So that's my first clip of the morning, which would be you can see there's like no one around me. I am completely by myself, and the game plan like just starts out working absolutely perfectly. So let me this is painful to watch, Brad. It really is. All right, here we go. Yep.
Start.
That is solid for here.
All right, so off and running, and you can see, like, I know that we're gonna get into some landing issues that I had later that day, but I mean that's first thing right off the morning. Do I appear to be jacked up, like I'm over fighting the fish, like I'm doing anything wrong, taking my time with them? Because that was your biggest critique was, dude, are you getting these things to the boat too hot? And that's you'll see what happens next. But I mean, it seemed pretty solid to you.
Yeah, seemed solid to me. You didn't seem overjacked. But those things that don't know how to pull, man, and I mean, you know, it's a double-edged sword. Like, I don't want to play them down to where they die in my live well, where they're taking all their energy. I mean, I put some pressure on them. But, yeah, I mean, if you're having a lot of fish losses with smallmouth, you know, just bringing them just straight too hot to the boat possibly definitely could be an issue.
So I put the first 4 in the boat, or first 3 in the boat, and then this is my 4th bite. I drop down, I catch a small one, I drop right back down, and I hook up on a tank. Now, I think I've identified what I did wrong here, Brad, and I want to see if you think so, because I lost 2 fish. I thought they were over 4 pounds. Later in the week, we put them on the scales on what I thought was a 4, and they were 3 3/4. I was a little jacked. I mean, at the time, I think this was a big one, but I just want you to watch what happens on this. This is probably half an hour later. I've shed a little bit of clothing, but this was the first kind of miscue, the first things that it was not all right in paradise.
You want to come around back?
Oh, it came off. All right. At first, I thought I didn't do anything wrong. I totally screwed the pooch on that one, didn't I, Brad?
I don't see how you did anything wrong there. Just wasn't obvious. What are you thinking you did wrong?
I'm going to share the screen without audio, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see if we can bring us back in. Oh, through the magic of okay. I think we're still good here. I don't think we have any audio. So watch. Okay, I fight him. I'm good. You with me? Watch this. Watch the pressure on the rod right here. Watch this. Watch right here where it is. Watch how he's on and now he's off. Why was I not reeling down to that fish? I literally completely let up on all pressure on that fish right before he popped off. Watch. It's on a Ned rig.
I don't agree.
Watch this right here.
I'm watching. The rod never goes limp.
It does right before he comes off.
He's at the surface. I mean, your
why
bait's,
was I not reeling down though?
Your bait's 10 feet from him.
I feel like I babied him.
How big was that fish?
Like I said, I thought it was a 4+.
Yeah.
It was way bigger than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, that hurts.
All right, and then we'll go to I think we can just go to the next one here and we can keep audio with it. Okay, so this is an interesting one. Okay. I got to talk through this. So I roll up on this spot. And you know I'm always like, if it crosses your mind that it's wrong, right? I'm going to talk through this. All right, I'm pretty sure the Accucol Scott Pellegrin, right? Okay, that's Scott right there. I roll up on this spot. Can you see my mouse? There's a rock pile out in here. Scott had been facing the other way. I roll up, get on the front deck, and he turns his boat. He's facing me, and now I realize I'm way too close to Scott.
Okay.
But I make a cast. And I'm talking to him, and I said, sorry, I thought you were going the other way. Whammo. Jam one, and this one is over 4. He comes up hot. Watch this. He comes up. He does a frickin' right by the frickin' boat. Whoa. Ooh. And I mean, dude, Scott's right there. And it went through my mind, I'm too close to Scott, right? So I was too close to him, even though he was on a different rock pile. But what do? I mean, day one, you don't have a limit. He's not on the rock pile. You thought he was going the other way. And he's like always been super cool with me. I felt like an idiot. But anyway, so, I mean, watch. I fight them out. I mean,
You end up losing this fish?
No. I land this one. This was my second biggest one of the day.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
All right, so that was that one, and then we got to do audio on this one. So this was the end of the day. I fill out a limit. I've got 14 something, and I go to a little rock pile. Camera boat pulls up on me, and I've got a 2 and a 2 1/4. Exact same scenario as when that first one pulled off happened. So let me
same bait.
Same bait,
Ned rig.
same everything. Let me share the audio on this because you can hear me talking to the camera boat, and then that'll be the clip that rounds out the day.
There's one. Nice. That's a giant.
I'm not sure what I say after that, so we'll just stop the clip right there. Same thing, though.
Yeah. I've had some problems in the past with Ned rigs. It's been a while ago, but I was using a different head. I don't even remember which one I had, but it was one that I remember this part. It was when the Ned had kind of first started coming out, and Russell Cecil was like, yeah, this is the head. This is the head. Yeah, it wasn't the head. And I lost, like what you're looking at, 4 or 5 fish at Amistad during an event. And no. But I talked to you about the head you were using, and there ain't anything wrong with it.
So here's the deal on the head. This is the same head, the exact same head that I used last year and was 98% on it. It's the same head that I used during practice and was 98% on it. I think it's probably one of the best Ned heads out there. I'll say I was using 2. I switched between the ram head, the big bite ram head, because that hook in that is, I wanted a hook that didn't bend out, right?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't super fine wire, because I was throwing 9-pound test on it because the zebra muscle's down there.
Right.
So I switched between the ram head and then the Z-Lock Ned, but it's the same style hook, that short, little bit thicker, doesn't open up. It wasn't like that light, and changed it every single half hour. You saw that little box that I had. I was super proud of it. I said, look at all these. Changed it out every half hour, tacky sharp hooks, bait was never turned over on itself, and just dumped them. So that's how I ended up with 14-11 and 98th place on the first, or 97th place on the first day.
Yeah, those are good fish to be losing.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
you lose those two. Add, let's just say they were 3 3/4. I had 2 1/4 pounders on there. That's
right.
a 8 to 17.5, 18-pound day on the first day, and I look like an all-star.
Right. And like I say, my first day, I put everything in the boat, and I never had a problem with smallmouth all week. But when you go to my video on day 2, I start the same type of stuff you've got. Different reasons, different purposes, but definitely go through the same thing.
All right, let's go to your day. Day 2. With audio, Bradley Hallman on Oneida in the 20, starting out day 2, one of the first boats on the water. And this is what happens.
Yeah, I fit in right there, man.
Oh, yeah. Right over the arc after you. Say hello to the chicken legs. They'll be eating you for dinner. Unless I say no.
Hey, that's close to where Tyson grew up, isn't it? Mike Tyson?
Nah, New York State.
All right.
So
Going on there.
Yeah, there was a lot going on there, and I dealt with that all day. Guys co-anglers talk about their draws that they get with bad boaters. Sometimes we get guys that talk all day long. That fish was exactly what I'm talking about with the zebra mussels were an issue. And I don't know that I land that fish. That was a big fish. I don't know that I land that fish with the Baitcaster, but there's a big difference. And we learned this, and we're going to talk about that. We learned this because we stayed an extra week. The 16-pound test line. Now, do I get that bite? I don't know, because that was a very heavily pressured area. And that's one thing that you'll never know. Because there's definitely a difference in bites between 10-pound test line and 16-pound test line. But the zebra mussels, I lose a couple of fish on day 2 because of that. I knew going into the event, like I'm checking my line constantly. I'm retying probably. It seemed like every 10 casts you're sitting up there retying, which, by the way, a lot of guys are like, why are you throwing fluorocarbon? Why are you throwing straight fluorocarbon? That's why I end up staying with straight fluorocarbon, is because I couldn't find an advantage. Like I went into this thing, I talked about it in a lot of my videos. There's some guys up north that really catch them all the time that are using straight fluorocarbon. Now, I didn't get to interview any of them, talk to any of them, call and be like, hey, why are you using it? So I took it out there to experiment. There is no doubt that if you're fishing around a lot of zebra mussels, you're having a place where you're breaking off a lot. Dude, nobody wants to sit down and tie that many leaders, right? If you've got straight fluorocarbon, you can just pull a couple of feet of line, get to clean line, retie. You know what I mean? And when you're doing it multiple times over and over and over throughout a day, there is no doubt that fluorocarbon is an advantage over having the braid fluorocarbon leader in that instance. Now, with that being said, a little bit heavier line, yeah, you land that fish possibly. You also can cut it. Dude, we've cut 20-pound test line on zebra mussels like scissors. So it's just going to depend on the nick.
All right. I see Scott backstage. I told him like 9:15. You good, Scott? Give me thumbs up if you're still good, just hanging out. I know he's got a big store to run there. It's nuts, the stuff they have there. So as long as he's good, we'll keep rolling then. All right. So what is this next clip then? Next fish later in the day?
Yeah, this is just kind of the MO of my day. So you're going to see it. I lost the biggest fish that I had seen largemouth wise since I'd been there. I had lost probably 5 minutes before this clip. Same thing. Hit it right on time. It was in some grass. Hit it with the jig. She comes straight to the top, opens her mouth, and throws it. So, and then this happens. And I had the problem with largemouth over and over. Anyway, go ahead, roll the clip. Oh my God.
What'd you have there?
Largemouth.
Largemouth?
Yeah. Get in this boat. Thanks, sir.
There's a miracle. Stay in the boat.
Holy cow. That was
yes.
Close.
So
was that the same fish?
No. So that was 3 different largemouth in a span of 5 minutes. And the only one I land is the smallest one of the 3. But even she comes off at the boat. And that's why I didn't even stop. Like I just lost those 2. I was like, I'm swinging this little thing. So, and she even comes off. If I hadn't swung that fish, she would have come off. I don't know, man. It was the largemouth. Now, in that instance, a different jig, bigger line would not have mattered because I'm flipping a grass clump. And I probably could have laid some heat to them. So, I had the bites to have a 16, 17-pound day on day 2, which puts me real close to the top 10. But
okay, so is this what you were talking? You caught 5 keepers on day 2, right?
Yes, sir.
This was your 5th fish.
It was 3rd or 4th, but yeah, okay. If that fish doesn't land in the boat,
watch this.
I don't catch 5.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
So hold on, let's see if I can do this. So you have, that was not a fantastic day there, but if you want to, okay, let's go back to the. Can we get back to the results? Okay, so you finished.
13 pounds the second day. Sound
So
right?
you finished 29.3. How big was that fish? Pound and a half?
Yeah.
So you'd have like 27.12, right?
Yeah.
That would put you down in 90th.
Yeah.
So just that fish, wow. That was like a 25-point fish that it just bounced off the side there.
Yeah. Yeah. But how many points were the other ones? You know what I mean? Like, it just, I needed more rods laying on my deck. You know, that's my bad. I got too locked into doing one thing with one rod, and I should have had more options laying on the deck because all I had to do was reach down and pick up a different jig.
You told me something that I've never heard you say in the 15 years that I've known you, or 10 years that I've known you, and the 3 years that I've roomed with you, is you said you were point fishing on day 2, fishing for points, playing it safe. You knew you could catch a limit. I've never heard you say that before. What was that decision about?
So one of the guys that made a comment already on here said he was surprised I didn't catch him better on day 2 with that draw. And I agree with him because I thought I would get on that really good area and be the first one there and catch them. Kenta and I started, which Kenta ended up doing extremely well. We ended up basically fishing boat rail to start the morning. I'm boat 5 going out in the morning. I think I'm going to be the first one there. I get there. Kenta's 5 minutes after me, 3 minutes after me. I mean, he was early as well. We get side by side and we fish this spot. It does not fire. It doesn't fire for either of us. And I mill around on that thing, on that offshore deal, and I never catch fish off of it. I have another area on the lake that I had a lot of bites in practice. And I was like, it's a short day. I mean, I've got to weigh in at 2 o'clock. So at 10:30, 11, I pulled the plug and I'm like, I'm going there. Maybe I did it earlier than that. 9 o'clock in the morning, I thought you better get there and put your head down and catch some fish. So that's what I did. And it took me all day to catch 5. Now, I had the opportunity to catch.
Oh, Brad froze on us. All right.
Really?
Yeah, you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, you had the opportunity.
Anyway,
but you caught 5. That's what counts. Yeah. All right, let's run through my day 2 real quick. There's really not much to say there. So I get to my spot the first thing in the morning. Had never seen like a bass eating mayflies before. That was like new to me. Brad's frozen again. But the mayfly deal was new to me. Had never seen the mayfly deal before. Ned rig. I'm like, dude, look, I think there's like a walleye on the surface with bends or something like that. And I pitch my net over there, and we don't really need audio for this. So I like first thing in the morning, still have a bug on the screen. Fix, and I'm like seeing something like over here on the surface, right? We're in 25 foot. There it is, right there. Do you see that right there, Brad? Watch this right here. Right? See it?
Yep.
Pitch, stop. Holy cow. I'm shaking it. Fish is already on there. I didn't even realize it. He's on there. I'm like, oh, he bit it. Wham. 3.5. Jumps. Gone. That was like third cast of the morning. Out on Shackleton over 25. But like, watch. I'm like looking at my graph. Watch where I don't know what I was thinking. That fish would have eaten a spook. It would have eaten anything. Watch. See him right there. Whoop, eats it, pitch. Boom, he's gone. That was it.
That's tough.
So then I pick up, I'm like, this is where it gets interesting because I remember you had told me, and so had Andrew, dude, I know it's not a big topwater lake. Always have a topwater pop-our spook something on it, Oneida, just in case. I said, well, I don't know what this deal is. So I pull out a little baby repo man that I had, locked away for 10 years and never used it. Had a feather treble on it to try to imitate a mayfly. So the next time I see it, I pick it up. I had seen the same thing. So this is like 10 minutes later. Pick it up. Boom, boom, boom. I had seen him surfacing. This is the biggest fish of the tournament for me. And braided line. Brand new Gamakatsu's on it. I just reel the dang thing in and boat flip them. I mean, how easy was that?
That's the way to get her done, son. I like that.
And it's on the back treble, so I made a good decision. Put a brand new feather, back treble, fish it slow, saw him come up, had the bait on the deck.
Yeah, that's good stuff. But most smallmouth guys would tell you that the one that you flipped on there, you flip on them. If you can flip on them with a single hook bait, which you did, that's a better option than flipping out there with something with trebles on it. It's a better option because a single hook, like if you flip a tube or a Ned, I mean, that should be, if they eat it, it should be game over. You got a better chance of landing them. So I think I wouldn't critique that.
So then this is where things get interesting. So I've talked to you. I'll just briefly cover it. No one really talks about this stuff. But I had some mechanical issues on day 2. Lower unit, not the big motor, not the boat, nothing. I just had a gear casing, right? That's what it's called, Brad?
Mm-hmm.
Had a gear casing go out. It happens. It's a deal that happens. There's a service crew there. The service crew was crazy good. Got it fixed and got me back on the water. But I had 2 and it just got me out of my rhythm and I never made a good decision the rest of the day. So I noticed it started knocking really bad, just nah, nah, nah. So I call. Here's a little clip of me calling and going in. I think I have to pop it back on. Oops, I don't want to do that. I'm going to share screen with audio. All right, so you'll hear. Okay, hey, throw your jacket on real quick so I can start the motor. I mean, will that strand me?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Okay. Oops.
Mm-hmm.
So you could hear that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this was the craziest thing. So I had my truck and boat were at the house because of the parking situation. So dude I need to get him on, actually changed my lower unit. So I ran all the way back from Shackleton while they were doing that. I should have stayed there longer. I should have stayed there longer and tried to capitalize more on it, but I was trying to move and it was getting bad. I knew I had to get it fixed. So I ran back in and it just kind of threw my timing off. Then I stayed close and tried to catch him. And then, I'll show by the time I got back out there. So you saw how it was in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So then by the time I got back out there,
rocking.
This is what it was like the rest of the day. I mean, totally different conditions. I farm one, I lose one on a drop shot, I lose another one on a Ned rig, and I catch a 12-incher and my day's over. And I had a 5:30 check-in and I weigh in 3 fish for 7-11. It only took an hour for him to do that. He brought everything down, was waist deep in the water, changed it. It should not have impacted my day at all. I mean, this was at 9 a.m. and I had till 5:30.
Right.
And I just never got good on timing again. Lost a couple fish, lost that key one in the morning, lost another one on a spook, and boom, there you go. That's how you finish 120.
Mm-hmm.
Now I capitalized on some of those opportunities. I had another one that size of the one of the spook, and it just and then pulled off. And I have that first one in the morning, and half an hour into the morning, I've got 4 for 13. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the anatomy of really sucking. That's the worst open finish I've ever had.
It's tough when you have breakdowns, I mean, it throws you for a loop and it's very hard to overcome them, it is.
But anyway. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, hopefully you learn a little bit from that kind of rundown of what we did. Some stuff we wish we would have done different, obviously, in hindsight. What's the best thing you thought you did in that event, though? We'll end on that. We'll end on a positive note. Best thing that you did in the Oneida event?
I don't know. The best thing that I did was I stuck with that jig. There's no doubt that jig bite was legit, and I stayed with it.
All right.
Dude, when they ate that thing, they would have it down their throat. They wanted it so deep. It was good.
All right. Best thing that I did was have that backup, that top water rod on the front deck, even though I had not thrown it at all in practice, kind of for 2 of my fish on day 3. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we have Scott Masucci from Lakeside Outfitters, one of the owners there. We're going to get into his opinion on the impact that an open has, what it's like being a shop, kind of a specialty shop that caters to kind of high-end tournament guys and year-round. So BTL on a Monday with Bradley Hallman. We'll be back right after this.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
The new Android series is the peak of the Denali lineup and offers the ultimate Denali experience. The Android series features 36-ton multi-directional graphite combined with interlock blank technology for added strength. Each rod is outfitted with Royal titanium guides that will not fail. The blank is fitted into an easy-touch, soft-feel EVA foam grip with exposed blank reel seat. This all allows the Android to transmit every movement of your bait and even the most subtle bites. The Android series is the finest rod Denali has ever made and offers an angler the ultimate fishing experience with a limited lifetime warranty. See the full lineup of Android rods at DenaliRods.com.
Welcome back, BTL, on a Monday. Now it's time to go to the most patient man in the bass fishing industry. That'll be Scott Masucci from Lakeside Outfitters. Sorry, man. I know we're a little bit late there. We got a little long-winded on our
you're good.
Analysis of what we're... You're a guy who knows Oneida. You talk tournaments and bass fishing and everything on Oneida. What are your thoughts listening to those clips? Any insider analysis for Bradley or myself on what we did right or wrong at the Open?
No, I think you guys played it right.
Come on. There's got to be something. You can't do that. You can't.
Oh, man, you
got to be honest here. I know you were thinking some stuff.
I like Brad throwing the jig all day. When that bite's on, it's on. I mean, it's tough to put away. I mean, it's tough. These fish are nuts. They're tough to keep on. I mean, I fished a 2-day derby this weekend. I mean, I was fishing a tube and it was all the way down their throat. I had to cut pretty much every single one off and leave it in them. And then you'd have other fish that, you couldn't keep them on to save your life. You just got to go with what they're biting that day. Every day's a challenge on Oneida, just put it that way, as you guys know. They get on something and it turns quick.
Do you throw your jig on a baitcaster?
Sometimes yes. Sometimes I throw it on like a 7.6. A little bit of both. I actually, during that time frame, I think it was better on a spinning rod, to be honest with you.
Well, that's
just
what
the
I
way
was
the
using.
bite, just the way the bite's been. When it gets tough, I prefer spinning.
That's
definitely.
what I was using, was a 7.6 spinning rod with 10-pound test line. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday I probably retied 50 times, like you're talking about. I was using 12-pound Seagar. You get on zebra mussels. I was fishing a little ledge behind one of the islands, and they were sitting right below the zebra mussels, and it just makes for a long day of reties. But you got to do it.
It does.
Pressure affects Oneida a lot, doesn't it?
Oh,
It seems like they even bit differently on day 2 than they did on day 1. And I was thinking that would have had to have just been because of 220 boats on the lake for 6 straight days.
Oh, definitely. It's always tough when it's pressured out here. I mean, it doesn't matter what time frame you're fishing it. I mean, luckily this year there hasn't been too much boat traffic other than the bass tournaments. Hasn't been as many pleasure boaters. So definitely tough. I mean, it was still tough this weekend, but we had one 19-pound bag and an 18-pound bag. So they're still biting.
All right. I wanted to go back to the heritage of BTL and talk a little business. And I've wanted to do this show for a long time and just find the right guy. And you are the right guy for this show. Kind of a specialty shop there at Oneida. You're located like down on the opposite end of the lake from where Oneida Shores is. What is that place?
Yeah.
Where exactly are you?
Southeastern end, I would say. South Shore, way east.
But
good ice fishing location, not a great bass location.
Yeah, well, I guess for the ice fishing thing, I was talking with Joe LaBarbera, and he was like, dude, he's like, that's like probably one of the top 3 ice fishing shops in the country. Like, you guys are like one of the premier ice fishing shops. He said the entire shop will change from bass to 164th ounce jigs and maggots and 1 pound test line and stuff in the wintertime.
Oh yeah, lots of bait. About 500 pounds a week we go through.
Like minnows and
leeches. Yeah. A lot of buckeyes. Buckeyes are the like a Niagara or an emerald shiner. Everybody's got their own names for them. So we go through probably 350 pounds of those alone.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a lot of minnows.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot the last couple of years on locations of opens, and they'd had to deal with Bass Pro Shops. Had to be within like 30 miles and blah, 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 and they did the final day. Well, that's out the window now. Brad and I and the rest, we travel around to these events, whether, you've got a group of guys for the Elite Series, for the Pro Circuit, for the BPT, for the Opens. As a kind of a specialty bass shop, when that schedule comes out and that, say, the Open is going to be here the beginning of July, and you've got a year in advance, like, do you do specific things to start preparing for that? How big is that for your business plan for the following year? What is the impact of that Open? Just kind of talk about the process of navigating from the time that schedule's announced till the time the guys start showing up and how important that is.
So I like to kind of break it down where I'm ordering amounts specific for the event. I'll start hoarding immediately. Whether I need it now, later, like this year, max cent. All right. As soon as I got the schedule, $15,000 order, max cent. Put it aside just for that alone. Like, didn't even see the light of day until the tournament hit. I mean, I would get other stock ahead, and, I still have stock after I bought more stock. So, just take that for example. Like, I know, jigs, first week of July, it's going to be a jig bite, tube bite, start getting into drop shot bite, then have a little bit of the other stuff that could play in. This year is totally different than last year. Last year, it was like nobody figured out that this lake of football jig works. So it was kind of one of those things where the year before, I think I sold like maybe 2 dozen. This year, I probably sold well into the thousands. So it was, And it can screw you up when you don't plan right too. At the same time, where it's like, everybody's got this bait they're looking for, and go into scramble mode, try to get it in as quick as you can, and hope that it's there. But with COVID going on, it's been a challenge to do that with any bait. So you kind of have to pre-plan the best you can. I mean, I'm a huge numbers guy. Like, I do all my research ahead of time. I look at last year's trends of what guys were buying. It pays to have a good, solid inventory system to know kind of, last year was this date. This is kind of what was going on the lake. We're 2 weeks earlier. This is what I think I'm going to need. So I kind of play it off of that.
So then how do you know what to stock? Like, so just, we'll take the jig. You got Kitex and Beast Coast and Riots and other little jigs like that. How do you know, like, this is the one, and these, is it just talking with guys? Is it through fishing tackle retailer? Is it research? Like, it seems like you have a lot of stuff that, you're like, this is the only place you can get this.
Yeah, I try for a little bit of that. And, I keep a pretty good group of guys throughout the state, and then I have like some Toyota guys, some Elite guys, who are constantly filling me in on, what they may see. But I like the New York guys who are like your main sticks of the state. Like, I'll pick their brain. I'm not necessarily going to ask them what exactly, but they'll give me a good idea of, what I should do. And, it's worked out all right for us where, Kitech, everybody knows, like, Northeast Kitech. What I like about that jig and what most guys are going to like about it is the hook size for smallmouth. You can't use like a size 5 hook and expect to catch smallmouth up here. So we look for like that size 2 hook. And, there's only so many companies who make a bait with that size hook. That's what guys are looking for. So I kind of have a good grasp of what product guys want. I mean, a lot of research on my end to make sure I get kind of the right product. I mean, there's some stuff in here that I'll buy like for Cayuga, Ontario, or Champlain, just because we get guys strolling through. But I try to keep it Oneida specific for like the main stuff that I know guys are going to buy.
So once the event kind of starts there, like this year, for example, what kind of crowds do you notice coming in, and how much do they buy? How much money do they spend? I mean, do those guys just come in and like, I want 30 jigs right here, or I want 52 baits? I mean, do you notice like the doors just dinging constantly once the open shows up?
Yeah, definitely. This year was a little weird. I don't think it was the greatest timing to have an elite event or an open event with being close to the 4th. There was really no place to stay up here, so everybody's it was kind of like that waiting. It's like, when are they going to start showing? You get to Friday and you're like, where are these guys? And you're like, but it was all kind of a mad dash once everybody got here. Yeah. Where years past, it was spread out throughout a month. It just didn't seem like guys were pre-fishing as long because there was no place to stay. So it was a little bit more intense in in a week time frame than normal, where guys get that chance to buy and you kind of start figuring out the trend a little sooner. So it's a little trickier this year for us.
All right. Obviously no names, anything like that, but craziest purchase during like that open week. Like, did anyone come in and drop like $5,000 on like just insane amounts, just bags and bags of stuff? We were talking about before some of the stuff at like Clear Lake in the deal, and like Jason Quinn buying like 100 flutter spoons at a time. Like, do you see that where you like look at one of your other guys back there and they're like, all right, this guy will never have to buy another bait the rest of his life?
Yeah, we had a few of them, and they weren't even guys fishing the open. It was guys fishing the elites up north, where it's just like thousands upon thousands of dollars a max send. Southern guys. Yeah. Yep. I mean, there were some open guys who definitely dropped some dough, but that was the most alarming thing, where you're getting like 200 packs of a color of a flatworm. You're like, what the heck do you need all these for?
200.
You're good. Yeah.
Wow.
And it was multiple colors too. It wasn't like it was just one color. Yeah.
I got you. So the opens is kind of the Wild West where everything is fine. You can get information. You can ask for information up until Monday of practice. So I'm also curious, how many opens guys come in and try to like glean you for information that you have no idea who they are on like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before that off limit starts? I mean, are you constantly getting barrage? Do guys come in and say, I'm here for the open, what do I need? Or do most guys kind of know what they want?
I would say this year we got a lot of guys from like Virginia, and I think we got everybody from Texas and Oklahoma, and those guys were you could tell they were trying to figure it out. They weren't really asking, spot stuff like that. They were trying to get a feel for what baits might catch them more than anything. Where typically like your everyday guy coming in maybe once, they'll hammer you for spots, where I'm not going to give them spots. I mean, I go out with people in practice a lot, so I'm not gonna spot burn anybody, but I'll put them on a bait. Never hurts to sell more baits.
Yeah. And then this is something that I've always been interested in. So you walk into a store. Obviously, your job is to sell this as much as you can and put it. What can I tell by walking into a local specialty store, by bait positioning, by bait placement, by how much there is, to know this is something that catches fish on this lake? So I can go in. I mean, do you set the store up specifically to where a guy, if he knows what he's looking for, can say, okay, this is a bait that I need to have. This is a bait that I need to have, just based on the SKUs, where it's positioned in the store, how many different styles there are of it? Or do you just like put the stuff up in the store and then it's your job to figure out what's good?
Yeah, it's taken me a while to get a feel for it. And it's something I'm still working on. I mean, I have zero retail experience. I just jumped right in. So, you know, I would say the one big misconception in a bait shop, like people asking what's an empty hook. The zero rhyme or reason when it's like full peg, empty peg. If I got it, I'm restocking it immediately. So that's one good tip for buyers. Don't ever go by, if it's empty, that's the deal for the lake. Usually I have the most of it, so I'm constantly keeping track of it. That's what I'm doing. But positioning, you put some stuff close to the register and stuff like that you think guys hanging out in line, they'll see it out of the corner of their eye. Oh, I got to have it. Or, like us, we make products. So we have kind of our showcase wall of stuff that we make. And then I put some stuff up front. And then like us, I mean, we got a big selection of megabass. I'll put it in the back where I can kind of keep my eye on it because, you get high dollars worth of stuff, a lot of traffic. You want to have it close to a camera, close to your eye, make them walk through the store to find it. Like I kind of do some of those tricks, put clothing in the back where they can see it from as soon as they walk in the store, it sticks out. So just a few different things that I do, but I don't go too crazy. If there's a spot, I just put something there.
I was always wondering that. Like you would think, because like when I used to cover the Elite Series, I roomed with a guy, and he would always like I remember one time, he went to 4 tackle stores and bought every DT 10 and 14 in perch color, and never even planned on throwing them. He just didn't want anyone else to throw them.
Yeah, we get a lot of that too.
Like $1,000 on DT 10s and 14 in perch colors, and he's like, I'm not getting beat by a crankbait this week. And I was like, that's bold strategy.
Yeah,
that's the truth. Though.
That's one thing I was surprised that we didn't sell many of was crankbaits. That was one of the things we really didn't sell much of.
Yeah, I don't really know of anybody who got on a good crankbait.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, but when you get on it, you can get on it and you can do some damage out here.
Yeah,
it's definitely one of my favorite ways to fish.
I know you guys have got a lot of hair jigs, and we were talking about it a little bit coming into this, and obviously you tie hair for more than just smallmouth, but since this is a bass show, talk a little bit about that hair jig that you guys have got that you tie for the smallmouth, because a lot of guys in my part of the country, obviously I remember the first time I saw it, it's been years ago, but that's a very odd bait and a technique to catch smallmouth. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so like we've monkeyed around with, multiple different heads. The one that I prefer is the darter head where it kind of just lulls you to sleep. And we put a little teaser feather on the back end. We use 2 different style hooks. We use one real light Gamakatsu hook, and then we use a heavier duty Gamakatsu hook, depending upon what, when we're kind of custom doing orders for guys, we'll give them the option, heads, hooks, teaser feathers, no feathers, colors. Yeah, I mean, we try to tailor to what your need is. That's kind of what we do as a shop.
Is that bait just to throw it out there and reel it in type bait, or is that something that they're giving action to? How do you guys work that bait?
So, me personally, you want like a 7.6 to probably 7.9. It's hard to find. It's probably the hardest rod to dial in and find the right rods. Like you have that aha moment, like, okay, I found the rod.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like fishing. You fish Okashira screwhead before, where it's like it just comes at you perfectly straight, doesn't do anything, just kind of lulls them to sleep. It's kind of like that. That's kind of how I fish it. Just give it a twitch here and there, but for the most part, perfectly straight. But black is definitely your typical color for the north.
What size line are you throwing it on?
I'm kind of weird with it. Like I'll actually throw it on braid, like heavier braid, just to get it out there, because that's where that rod comes into play. You need something to cast it longer than, like, say you use like a 6'10" or a 7-foot spinning rod. That thing's gonna go like 15-20 feet max. Like you need something to huck it out there. So I don't actually mind the heavier braid with a fluorocarbon leader. You want to get some distance. That's the main thing, and it's probably the hardest thing to get distance with. So a lot of guys will add a little chunk of Senko on it, give it a little extra weight. But we typically do a lot of 1/8 ounce, I would say, is our most popular for up here.
I would say that is the bite that Bradley and I completely missed.
Mm-hmm.
At
Oh,
least
yeah.
I completely missed it.
Along
It
with the
still happened
along,
yesterday.
along with the chatterbait, dude.
That
We're
was
gonna get into that.
chatterbait. That
Oh
was
my-
the deal for me all weekend. Like,
dude, that the big ones
chatterbait.
eat that thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was fishing largemouth with a largemouth guy yesterday, and I'm like, I'm not a largemouth fisherman. I'm not a topwater fisherman. I guess I'll just throw a chatterbait, and I ended up out fishing him 4-1, just on a chatterbait. Dead slick conditions back in Big Bay, largemouth country. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I was fine with missing the hair jig bite because I was not confident with it going into it, and I'm not going to experiment and throw something in a tournament that I don't have confidence in. The chatterbait bite, missing that one bothered me. But, like, if I did not catch him and I look back on it and I was like, well, I just threw a 3/32 ounce crappie jig with my season on the line and it didn't work. Like, I wouldn't be able to live with myself with that. So I can handle missing it because of my lack of experience and confidence with it, right?
There's nothing to it.
I know there's nothing
I think
to
that's
it.
that biggest misconception. It's kind of like a spy bait. I think people think that there's way more to it than there actually is. A hair jig is way easier. Just cast it out and figure out your retrieval. They'll tell you pretty quickly how they want it. It's pretty slow typically, though. It's not a super fast retrieve.
But there's nowhere for like Brad and I to get good at that for fun, like other than a tournament scenario. Because we're never anywhere outside of a tournament scenario where that's a big time player. I don't feel like.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we can do the big swim bait thing, or we could do weird baits around here for largemouth because we go fun fish all the time, right? But you get up there to smallmouth country and up north, and like, I guess, and Brad and I will talk about this a little bit in a minute, but I guess the smart thing to do is I get what Lucas has done up there and what some of those guys is stay after for a couple weeks or come up a couple weeks before and fish other fisheries. And instead of just doing the practice in that, want to get comfortable with some of that stuff when there's not money on the line.
Yeah. I mean, we'll go to largemouth lakes and use it too around here. It's not like it's just a smallmouth bait. It's worth trying out.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've caught plenty of largemouth on it. It's just good in that super clear, super calm water where, you know, you get super slick conditions.
You're giving me ideas, Scott. You're giving me ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, I threw it during the Elabasset. You should have been throwing it during the pro bass. I did throw it during the pro bass camp. I went up to Rick Harris and I got a couple of hair jigs from your shop and messed around with it. So.
Yeah. It's not too difficult. You got to just go out there, throw it for a little while. You'll see how the bass are tracking it, whether it's largy, smallie. They kind of dictate your speed for sure. I was kind of scared the first time I ever threw it. This year was like the first year I threw it. I was like, oh, there's nothing to this thing. Once you figure it out, it's having the right rod. The rod is the key. Yeah. Like I found the right rod for Joe basically through one of my ice suppliers. So Elliott Rods, who is the original Thorne brothers before they sold out the two brothers, have a sick rod. It's a 7'9". I think it's either an ultralight or a light. And I asked my rep, it's crazy. He's huge. He's like, they call him like Mr. Crappie or something in the Midwest. He's done a million videos. And so I asked him, I'm like, you know, how's this rod for crappie? I'm like, you think he can catch smallie? He said, I've caught crappie on it, and I've also caught 130-pound sturgeon on it this year. So it piqued Joe's interest, and he's like, all right, let me get a couple of these. And he's like, dude, this is the rod. Like, I've been searching for this rod for so long, and you nailed it. And he's been super happy. I mean, that's kind of an ace in the hole for him. I probably shouldn't be telling everybody about this rod because it is sick, but it's
like a one-off for the hair jig.
The guys in the Midwest, they know what they're doing when it comes to creating, you know, good rods. It's the same way in the ice market too. Like, they do the best ice rods, like, hands down. Like, that's where you're going to find them. That's where you're going to find the best gear. So just having that in my back pocket and, you know, asking around, settle a problem for Joe.
Very nice. You still working on the online portion of Lakeside?
Yeah, we're getting close.
I just pulled it up right now. That's what I was looking at because I was like,
if you want to see what the shop kind of looks like, it says welcome to our online store, work in progress. We're on the right one there. It's just rotjaw.com. That's kind of your line of in-house.
Yeah, because we're working on the Lakeside Outfitter site, so it kind of just redirects you right now. Yep.
All right. Well, hopefully that gives a little insight. Anything else you got, Brad?
Nope. I know where to get my hair from, though.
Yeah. We go.
Yeah, hopefully they're working for you guys.
Scott, thanks for jumping on BTL.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Good talking to you.
Man.
See ya.
All right. Take care.
All right. That was Scott Masucci from Lakeside Outfitters. Kind of give a little bit of different perspective on the impact that a major tournament has on a little tackle retailer like that. I don't say little. I mean, dude, his inventory is insane.
Yeah, it is. Wonderful shot. Wonderful shot.
All right, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, I just want to touch on why staying after you get your butt kicked in a tournament is way more beneficial than going 2 weeks early to practice for a tournament.
Yep.
You're in agreement with me here, Brad?
Total agreement. I think it's going to be one of the best subjects we've talked about today, without a shadow of a doubt.
All right, BTL on a Monday. Kicking things off in the month of August. We'll be back right after this.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. 2 sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com. The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte sexy shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look. That matte sexy shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-Bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
All right, we're back wrapping things up on a Monday. It's Bradley Hallman. Dude, I got a package yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, it was on the stoop of the house when I arrived home, and it was from you probably don't know who John King is, but you probably know who Drunkwood is. Drunkwood in Kentucky.
I do know.
He's the bourbon barrel. It's like his full-time job. That's what he does. He makes like cool stuff out of bourbon barrels. Anyway, Drunkwood sent me a package. Look at that. That thing is awesome. Brad's frozen again. He'll get unfrozen briefly, but it is an actual cutout. So the back of it is like a bourbon barrel. It smells like it. It smells like whiskey and wood. And then that's like my new house number. How cool is that gift?
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was the shipping address, like the return address, did not say like Drunkwood in Kentucky. It said it said something else on it. It was like something toys that he put underneath it, the big one. Anyway, he got me on that one, but
That's awesome, dude. He makes some awesome stuff.
Yeah, so if
he makes all the trophies for the MPFL guys.
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah,
those
he does
where
like
he
a
carves them out of every state. That's really cool.
side trophy. All right, let's tackle this before we wrap things up on a marathon show. But we haven't had you back for a while, so we did the Kirkdove Pro Bass Camp afterwards, and then I also had a conversation with Carl Jacobson, who we just had on BTL, a really good show last week. And I started things coming together, and I'm 100% convinced now that if you want to learn, if you want to educate yourself and further enhance your bass fishing abilities, that staying after a tournament that you get your butt kicked on a fishery that you're not extremely familiar with is by far the best way to learn quickly. Man, you keep freezing up on me.
I know
you said
it.
everyone,
Dude,
you
I've
said
got like
everyone's home. You got like 9 people on the Wi-Fi around there?
speed Wi-Fi on the planet. It's stupid how fast it is. I don't know why it's freezing up. Possibly that's what it is. I don't.
Oh. Anyway, hopefully yours will settle down. But here's why. So we fished the pro bass camp afterwards, and typically you have a tournament where you get your butt kicked and then you go home, and in my case I don't want to really have anything to do with it. I want to kind of know how they did their deal. But it's different when you're on the water. So at Oneida, I was able to go out. I was able to fish shallow. I was able to fish some of the popular areas. I was able to go back, and I was able to completely realize that I had closed my mind off to 3 or 4 very viable bites during the official practice because I either A, didn't know they existed, B, wrote them off, or C, thought there were too many boats in that area. And then to be able to go back without a time refrain and learn, you realize that even though there's 225 boats and you're saying, oh, it's so crowded, there are a lot of different ways to catch a bass. And then if you really study on what the guys said on Bassmaster, on what your buddies that you fished with, and you talk about it, I got such a better understanding of Oneida in the 3 days after the event than I did in the 6 days leading up to and the event, where I was one-track mind, single-mindedly looking on something. I think you kind of agree with that too.
100%. I don't know what's wrong with my Wi-Fi. I got the fastest Wi-Fi in the world.
That's
Maybe
fine.
it's because
You're good
everybody's in
now.
the house, but it's aggravating me too. Huge learning curve. So going out, we'd been off the water for a couple of days. We started fishing on Tuesday, so we'd had 2 or 3 days off the water before we went back, and I think we all kind of wanted some redemption. So I know that I was like, I'm gonna crack the biggest bag of this whole, because there was 24 kids. I mean, we had 12 boats on the water, so I'm gonna crack the biggest bag that my boat's gonna crack the biggest bag that's caught today. And I went out with that attitude. I didn't say anything to you guys, but like I was planning on crushing them. And I felt like I did. We caught 18 something, had a really good day. That's along with my kids that I had on the boat with me. They caught a couple of the nice ones too. We had a really, really good day. When I get in and I get to talking, Rick says he's got 20 something pounds. Do you remember that? He had over 20-pound bag day.
Yeah, like a 21-pound bag the first day.
And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, did you weigh them, or are you just kind of like guessing? Because I mean, I had all mine on a coal scale, and he's like, he pulls out a column right. He's like, does this work? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, you caught 20 pounds, so you had 5 4-pounders. Because in the 18-pound bag, we only had 1 or 2 4-pounders, too, over 4. I mean, legitimately over 4. To catch 5 of those things, man, that is freaking strong. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, chatterbaiting. I'm like, oh my God. To me, I mean, it stood out as obvious because like that jig bite was good. But for him to crack 20 plus, I mean, didn't they have like 21? It was a lot of
that
weight.
bite was there during the Open too.
It was there. And I never
really
saw
there
it,
on day 2.
Never saw it, never anything. And I'm like, wow, that is the bite. I mean, that's the bite for big ones because there's no way that he could have caught that bag, any other way. You take a miracle to catch that doing a drop shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is how crazy it was. So we stayed on the water, and every day we had to idle past a shoal to get back to where we stayed. It was legitimately 50 yards in front of our house. I mean, we sat there and stared at it for 4 days. I never fished it in practice. I never fished it in the tournament. I went there after I had talked to Rick. I caught 7 off of it in less than an hour the first time I went up there. And it just wasn't the pattern I wanted. I had closed my mind off. Those fish weren't up there. There's no way they were that shallow, and they didn't want a bait moving that fast in the open, right?
Yeah.
I was so wrong. And every day I sat there and looked at where a 17-pound bag was, just chunking and winding.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see hardly anyone else fish it in the tournament. Did you?
No, they were definitely passing. I passed it every morning, and there was never anybody there. If they were way out on the outside edge of it.
You could have gone right up there and just
Which leads me back to another big thing that I learned, by staying late longer. One of my days in practice, and I don't remember which day it was, but I got up on a really shallow shoal, and man, I had a lot of bites on that thing. And I didn't feel like most of them were big, but they weren't bad fish. They were 2.5, 2 3/4, maybe 1 3-pounder, maybe. And I went back in the tournament and tried to fish it, and there was a boat there, and it was really a pretty big area, and there's only one boat. But it kind of got in my head. I probably didn't spend 45 minutes, maybe an hour there the first day of the tournament, and then I never went back.
Mm-hmm.
I pull up on that thing in the bass class the first day, and that son of a gun is loaded. First fish I catch off of it's a 4-pounder. And I mean, They are in like 4 foot of water, shallow, which is how it was in practice when I pulled up there. And I remember thinking, man, I'm surprised that they're that daggum shallow. And like I've said before, and I'll continue to say, the more something surprises me. Now, this is probably not for every angler. So if you're, rocket scientist, Einstein fisherman, maybe Van Dam doesn't get surprised. But sometimes the more something surprises me, the more out of place it is. It should trigger something in my head. I know this. And I remember in practice being really surprised that I had that many bites. That was the damn deal. Yeah. There was a lot of fish on nothing, like in nothing. And which hence the hair jig, which hence the chatterbait, which, and I missed that totally missed that.
And then, so the primary area that we saw a lot of videos for you in, it's not a secret area. It's an area that, a lot of tournaments have been won and done well on. Like I said, I idled that, and I couldn't figure it out. And I saw you over there in practice, and I saw you fishing. And I remember thinking, boy, it's hard. I'm not used to seeing Brad not cover water, right?
Right.
And you mentioned like that you found some fish just fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I totally missed on that. So I went back in the kids camp and was like, okay, I 100% know there's some fish here. I know where that group is. I want to figure out what they're doing. Well, all I had to do was fish. It wasn't rocket science. It wasn't like you were fishing it was just like hard spots on that bottom, not like giant obvious rock piles, right? And the fish were scattered out there on the flat. So the only way you could find them was to fish for them and feel your way through it. It was old school fishing. Like I relied too much on my electronics. Like I dropped the live scope and was like, I don't really see anything here. Just scattered grass. I looked at my side imaging, my down imaging, didn't see much. But man, you could cast it out there and it'd be grass, sticky, donk, bite. And that was not until after that I was like, wow, the subtlety of that was the brilliance in it. And I idled over top 10 fish all multiple days of practice trying to figure out what was there. And then that was something that you could only find by fishing. So that was a big learning experience for me too.
Yeah. And, honestly, that's a lot of – I actually have that just from Oklahoma. Some of the jig spots that we fish here, especially like on Grand Lake and Eufaula and some of those, man, you can't really find those. I guess you could see some of them, but on a side imager and stuff. But a lot of those places, man, even Kentucky Lake, some of the TVA stuff, it's more about feeling it, It is for me anyway. And some of those spots at Oneida weren't very big, but, man, they stand out instantly. You can feel them. They're sticky. Yeah. And they weren't very big spots, but that's where you got bit.
I'll say this is the last thing that stuck out to me like a sore thumb. And this was after talking to Cody Meyer, who stayed around and did some filming, talking with Andrew, a bunch of other guys that were around that caught him I know even on, so day one, a lot of the fish, I'd seen them on the forward facing sonar that I'd flip the Ned rig to and catch them. I got so dialed into, I have to be casting to a specific spot. I have to be casting to a fish. I can't waste time just casting. That I wasted a lot of time. That a lot of those fish, with the water clarity, you could pull them off of bigger areas. There weren't schools of 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 fish. It was like 3 or 4 fish. They'd be on each like high spot or maybe 1 or 2, right? But if you got a bait down to them and they were feeding, they would swim over and they would eat it. So I got so dialed in, and I went back and I talked to some of the guys, and they're like, yeah, man, we're just like kind of area casting and staying as far back as you can in area. And I was being super specific, trying not to waste time. And in the process, I was passing up on a lot of roaming fish that were actively hunting and chasing bait. That those guys caught in the tournament, that I was getting really frustrated going, well, there's not one on that rock and there's not one on that rock. Instead of just knowing this is an area where they live, let's make long casts, minimize our presence, and try to catch a few. And I did that. I went back specifically saying I am not going to look at fish. I am not going to cast a specific. I'm going to just bomb cast in an area as far as I can. Seems like I caught 2 or 3 times as many fish. Now, also, there's not 200 boats out there. Who knows on Shackleton what 60 transducers pinging forward-facing sonar and 2D and all that. I mean, that's got to sound like a Vegas casino to them underwater on a fishery that maybe there's 5 or 6 walleye boats out there 95% of the time. But still, those guys caught them, and I didn't on day 2. So I got too dialed in. I got too specific in my own head. I had to make sure that the bait landed on the rock. I had to make sure that I was casting to a mark. No, I didn't have to.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. And like I say, anytime you get ultra dialed in, it's usually not a good thing. It's usually not. Open-mindedness, whether it's the spots you're fishing or the baits that you're throwing or the techniques or the depth or whatever, when you're like, they're only in 13 foot of water. There's no fish in 15 and there's no fish in 12. Well, you're wrong.
I know, right?
There are.
All right, let's wrap things up here for the day. Thank you for jumping on. Bradley, greatly appreciate it. You have been very back and active on the YouTube, dropping videos on a consistent basis. Anything that just came out or that you have coming up that the BTL?
I have one in the queue for today at 11, but I may not drop just because it's we've got a derby going on today, and I may wait till tomorrow. But it is all about the braided line versus fluorocarbon on spinning rods. So I go into detail about what I learned from that event, because that's the first time I've really gone back straight fluorocarbon in years, and there are some advantages to it, and we talk about those.
Very nice. Like I said, we really didn't go over a lot of stuff at iCast. That is because 6 days ago you dropped what you thought were the best new products at iCast, a video on that, 15 minutes. You can go watch all that stuff over on Brad's channel. And then if you want to know more and see more video about what we were talking about going on the water after a tournament, that video you just dropped a couple days ago, that You Won't Believe This Summer Camp is the title of it, is a lot of on the water footage from Kurt Dubb's Pro Bass Camp that kind of will work in combination with this last segment. So
yeah, which is an awesome camp. He's been doing for a long time. That dude does an awesome job with that too. I'm gonna throw that out there because that thing runs smooth. Like 24 high school kids, and there was no hiccups. It's great.
Yeah, no, he's done it for like 10 years now. It's the premier high-end youth camp in the country, bar none. They're becoming more popular. Lots more people doing them. Kurt Dubbs is number 1 right now.
I agree, without a shadow of doubt.
And he works his butt off to get it to that point where it runs smoothly and you drop your kids off and they can learn from some of the best in the business and catch them. So, All right, Bradley, what do you got next? You off for a couple weeks or?
Yeah, I'm just working on getting ready for Chesapeake. I mean, obviously sitting where I'm at in the points, I'm going to try to go all out for these last 4 events. I've got to get on the dang Elite Series, and I've got the door, cracked open. I need to kick it open. That's my main deal. So top 40s and finish the year, and I'll be fine.
All right, we for the rest of the week, looking ahead, I've made contact with 2-time Angler of the Year Michael Neal, working on getting him on the show tomorrow. These things kind of work rapidly because you can't have someone on before they've won it, and he just won it yesterday. So getting him on, looking for a recap of his season back to back, and then also talking about the entire season of the MLF Pro Circuit and the final event there on Lake Champlain. Then Thursday, back with another day 4 with Frank Scalish. Dropped some crankbait juice last week. Who knows what he'll talk about this week. But Scott Masucci from Lakeside Outfitters, if you're in the area, that's a must stop. Bradley Hallman, thank you for taking the time. Hour and 45-minute show to kick off the week. And that's all we got. This has been BTL on a Monday. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning. See ya.